Hi all, welcome to the channel Cloud Knowledge. Today in this video, we'll study a scenario where we have to do renaming of files in bulk while copying it from one storage location to another. For this purpose, here we are into the Cloud Knowledge container. Okay, this is our Cloud Knowledge storage into account. We'll go to the containers and inside the input folder, inside the input files folder, here we can see that we have multiple files. Files which are starting with department_1, department_2, department_3, all CSVs and other class files. Okay, and in this video the requirement is for all the department files we want to rename it to capital DEPT _1_2_3.csv. Okay, and in this video we will accomplish this task of renaming all three department files in bulk, that is together, applying the logic in the ADF. Important thing to note here is that along with these three files there are other files too, these class files. So we have to first of all filter out these department files. So let me first go to the whiteboard and see what all things we are going to do for this scenario. So let's go to the whiteboard here, and here we have the input folder. This is the input folder which has department files 1, 2, 3. Okay, these are the files, and in the output we want the files to be dept_1.csv, dept_2.csv, and so on. Okay, in this example we have three files. In the output we want these three files to be renamed as dept_1, 2 and 3, and that too, this renaming we have to do in bulk, that is in the single logic we have to do this. So the very first task is to get the items from this input folder, right? The logic will be to get the items. To get items, that is all the files which are present in this input folder. Input folder we have to use GetMeta data activity, and we'll take the child items, right? The child items will be taken up from this input folder. We'll browse up to this folder location and we'll get all these files. Along with these three files, as we have seen, we have other files too. So those files will also come here. Now, next task is we have to get only these department files. In order to filter only department files, we will use filter activity. Okay. So this filter activity, get metadata activity, we have all studied these activities in the playlist of the Azure Data Factory activities playlist. So filter activity will filter out only department files. How we will filter out? We have a function starts with. The files which are starting with department, we will take only those files. So we will get these three files from this folder location. Now we have got these three files, department 1, 2 and 3. Now next logic we have to apply is for each of these files we have to perform the copy operation along with the rename of the files. So for applying the logic to all the files we have to use looping, that is for each activity, to iterate through all three files. Inside the for each we will use copy activity. Inside the copy activity we will have the source as this location and the sink we will define. And for these two data sets, source and sink, we have to create parameterized data set and add the function. And at the sink level, the function to be used will be replace. Here the whiteboard looks very messy. Let's go quickly to the ADF and implement the logic. So we'll go to the ADF and create a new pipeline. So let's create a new pipeline. We'll name this pipeline as rename files in bulk. And here in the canvas, the very first activity to take is the GetMeta activity, which will fetch us all the files which are present at this folder location inside the Gen2 storage account. Okay, so this GetMeta activity lies under the General tab. So we'll take that in the canvas and we'll go to the settings of the GetMeta activity. We'll try to connect to the dataset. The dataset lies inside the storage Gen2 account. Click continue. Select delimited text because it's a CSV. Write the name of this dataset as bulk file rename input. Link service we have in place for this storage Gen2 account, which is Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2. We'll select that, and next is to browse to the file path. So browse, select input folder because the file lies inside the input container and inside the input files folder. So here we are at the folder location. So we'll select up to this input files folder location so that these all files will come as child items from the GetMeta activity. Click OK. First row has header, code schema none. Click OK. Right? Once we select the dataset, field list option will appear. We'll click on plus new and drop down we will select child items. Right? So we have configured the GetMeta activity. Let's now quickly perform the debug run to see if this is working fine up to this level. So let's click on debug and wait for the GetMeta activity to succeed. Let's refresh. It succeeded. If we go to the output here, we can see in the child items array we have all the files. Class file and department file. All 6 files have appeared. As we have discussed in the whiteboard, that the next job is to filter only the department files. So for this purpose, we have to use next the activity as filter activity, which is present inside iteration and conditionals because it's a conditional activity. So we'll take filter activity in the canvas and connect the output of GetMeta activity to the filter activity. Okay, we'll go to the filter activity and to the settings tab of it. Here, the first setting is the items, that is the input array on which the filter should be applied. We'll click here, add dynamic content. The input array will be the output coming from the GetMeta activity. So it will be the child items. From the activity outputs, we can see that GetMeta 1 child items will give us the list of subfolders and files in the given folder. So we'll select this, click OK. And next is the condition to be used for filtering the input. The condition will click on add dynamic content. The condition will be that all the files starting with department, that is department 1, department 2, department 3. So we'll write, so we'll make use of starts with function. Go back here and here if we go to the functions and search for starts with, it is used to check if a string starts with a value case insensitively. So we'll select starts with function. So in the starts with function, we have to select the string and then the start string. So the string where we have to search is here, the filter iterator. The iterator is the current item. We'll select this item and from that item we want to select the name because the name is giving us the name of the file. So it will be dot name, comma, if we hover over it, the start string. The start string should be department. Okay. So this expression will help us to filter out only the files which are starting with department. Okay. So we'll click OK. And now we will perform a debug run up to this level. Let's click on debug and wait for these two activities to finish the run. Let's click on refresh. both activities completed. Here in the GetMeta activity, we can see under the child items array, we have name as class 10 students.csv. We have name of the files with the name or the attribute name as NAME name, right? Name. It holds the value of the file name. That's why in the filter activity here in the condition we have given item dot name. That's why here in the filter activity we have given item dot name. The name should be starting with department. Okay. Next, we will go to the filter activity output, and here we could see that the filtered item count is 3. It has given us all the 3 file names which starts with department. Okay. So we have accomplished the task of getting these 3 files from this input folder. First, we got all the files, that is the child items, and from these child items we got the specific files which are needed to be renamed. So this is done. Next, we will go to the ADF and we will use ForEach activity, because now our task is to perform operation on all these 3 files. ForEach activity lies under the iteration and conditionals here. Okay, we'll take that in the canvas. Connect filter activity output to the ForEach activity, and we'll click on ForEach activity. Go to the settings tab of ForEach activity. We'll enable sequential here. Then the items, the property which has to be parameterized in the ForEach block. We'll click on the dynamic content, and ForEach activity will accept the output coming from the filter activity, right? So among the activity output list, which is giving us the GetMeta activity outputs 2, we have to select the filter activity output, right? This is giving us the output of the filter activity up to this output level. But if we go here to the execution of both the activities, both of these GetMeta and filter activity, and go to the output, here we can see that the output is this complete output, right? But we need only this array. So this array is present inside this value. Okay, this value array contains the file names, right? So we'll close this and we'll go here in the items and select here as output. From the output, take the value array. Okay, because ForEach activity cannot operate on the direct output of the filter activity. It has to iterate. That's why we have taken value. Click OK. So this is done. Next, we'll go to the activities. In the ForEach activity, we'll click on this edit button. And for each of these files, we have to perform copy operation. So we'll take from the move and transform copy data activity in the canvas and directly go to the source tab. In the source tab, we'll create a new data set. Let's create data set and select storage gen 2 account, delimited text, bulk files, input as parameter, link service storage gen 2, file path, inside the input folder, inside the input files as these files, right? So we have selected up to this folder level, but we will soon be going to parameterize this. First row as header, none, click OK. Source is selected. Now from the source data set, this bulk files in as para, we'll click on this open button so that it will open us the settings of the data set. And here in the settings, we will create parameter. So we'll go to this third tab and create new parameter for the files. We'll write here input file, go to the connection, and in the file path, we are inside the input container, inside the input files folder, and here in the file name we'll add the dynamic content, the parameter file name which we have created just now. So it will be dataset.input file. Click OK. And here we could see the input file parameter which we have created in the dataset appears. Next job is to add the value here for this parameter file. We'll click on add dynamic content. We'll select from the ForEach iterator the current item, and from this item we'll take the name because name holds the value of the file name. Okay, this is done. Click OK. Next comes the sync settings. In the sync settings, we will try to land the file inside the output container. Inside the cloud knowledge containers, we have output container, and inside the output container, we have output files folder. Here, we want to land this file. So we'll try to connect to this dataset. It's again a storage into account, delimited text. Let's write it as bulk file rename output. Link service we already have for the storage account. File path will browse this time to the output folder. Output files. Click OK. First rel header, none. OK. And we'll again open the sync dataset to parameterize. Here we are inside the output container, output files folder, and the file name we need to parameterize. So we'll go to the parameters section, click on plus new, write it as output file. Sorry, here we have a typo. Output file. Go to the connection. Here add the dynamic content, select the parameter, click OK. Go back to the pipeline, and here the option of the parameter which appeared will give the value here. And the value has to be in such a way that it should replace department _1 to DEPT for all the three files. Okay, we are iterating using the for each, and then we are copying. And that logic of bulk file renaming we have to write at the sync dataset level here in the dynamic content. So we'll go to the functions, and here we have a replace function. If we hover over it, it says replace a string with a given string. For example, old string, old and new. Let's select this replace function, and the first argument is the string. The string will be, if we go here to the for each iterator, it will be current item, that is item dot name, which will hold the file names which have to be renamed and copied. Then comes the second argument of the replace function, which is the old string and the new string. The old string was department, and the new string will be DEPT, right? Item.name is getting us file names one by one, and if the file name has department, replace it with DEPT. Looks fine. Let's click on OK. Now we'll try to validate this pipeline. It's validated. We'll publish the changes, and we'll perform a debug run. Let's click on refresh. Execution started, get metadata activity succeeded, then filter activity for each is in progress. Copy data 1 is queued. Let's wait for some more time. One file has been copied, we can see. The other one is in progress. So in total, from this input folder, only 3 CSVs or files which are starting with department has to be renamed and copied. Click on refresh. Yeah. So for each succeeded and 3 copy data activities succeeded. Let's go to the output folder first and click on refresh here in the output files folder, and we could see 3 files are generated with the name as capital DEPT, and only the department files are copied here, not the other files, because we have applied here the logic of filter activity, which is only taking up these 3 files, and further we are taking the output of this filter activity inside the for each activity to iterate through these three files and then rename and copy. Okay, so this is how these three files together have been renamed and copied to the output folder using ADF and these activities inside the data factory. I hope you've understood the logic and the simple implementation demonstrated here. Do let me know in comments if you have any queries. Thank you for watching the video. Happy learning. Bye.